Good evening. I'm Jan Kowalski with Slate I, and tonight I'm joined with Dennis Smith, the adjunct professor at the John Marshall Law School. And this is a live interactive show on CAN TV, TV 21, and we're also streaming live at cantv.org/hotline. And tonight we're going to be providing information to avoid financial exploitation, primarily for seniors. For the next 25 minutes, you are welcome to participate by calling in with a question or comment relating to our topic. And the number you can call is the number, that's displayed at the bottom of your screen, 312-738-1060. And before we get into talking about financial exploitation of seniors, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Jan Kowalski. I'm here on behalf of Slate. Slate is a non-for-profit entity, and on the screen you can see their email address, and their website, and their phone number. And Slate is devoted to assisting ex-convicts. They've got programs for re-entry, feeding the families of Englewood, and they also have a community service project through the Circuit Court of Cook County. And I'm Jan Kowalski, and this is my last show for the season. And I don't know if anybody remembers me from last time, but let me show you. I'm Kowalski, that's Kowalski. And it's a nice Polish name, and it's it's kind of difficult for some people to pronounce Kowalski. So I've got this cute little display here, and that's my little koala, and he's on skis. Like, why do you have a koala on skis? My name's Kowalski, so I've got the koala on skis. Now some people might be tempted to say that it's Kawasaki. That's why I've got the picture there of the motorcycle. But it's really Kowalski. And again, to help you remember that it's Jan Kowalski, my last little picture here I can show you is my little koala there. And my koala is 100% qualified, just to help you remember that I'm Jan Kowalski. And joining me tonight is Dennis Smith. Dennis, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jen. I'm pleased to be here.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm a attorney that works with the John Marshall Law School. I've been working with the Fair Housing Legal Support Center for the past 6 years in a variety of grants from both, we've had them from HUD, from the City of Chicago, and this year as well from the Retirement Research Foundation, to do outreach primarily on a variety of subjects related to fair lending and avoiding predatory lending.
And tonight you're here to talk about our senior citizens and what can be done to avoid financial exploitation. Is that one of your topics, Dennis?
That is a topic of this the grant from the city. Our grant this year is a tacit technical assistance citywide, and it's from the Department of Housing and Department of Planning and Development. And the purpose of it is to provide senior citizens in Chicago with practical information they can use to protect themselves and others from financial exploitation. In other words, to try to keep seniors from being ripped off. And we also provide technical training to housing professionals and other attorneys on how to protect their elderly clients from financial abuse.
Fantastic, Dennis. Why don't we just jump right into the financial exploitation?
Financial exploitation doesn't have a clear legal definition. So we've come up with one that's in lay terms that I think people can pretty well understand. Basically, it has several components. Anytime that coercion or undue influence is used or deception is used to convince somebody to sign a power of attorney, a deed, a will, to get bank access or any other legal document, or if they use deception, trickery, dishonest statements, false pretexts to induce someone to enter into a financial transaction that's financially detrimental to the victim and financially beneficial to the fraudster. That's financial exploitation. So if someone uses deception or false statements to induce someone to send money, to reveal a credit card or other banking information, to misuse a position of trust for financial gain, or any use of a legitimate financial purpose and tools for a detriment of a senior. All of those are components of what we call financial exploitation.
Wow. Can you tell us what makes seniors particularly vulnerable to this kind of financial exploitation?
Yes. Seniors generally are in a position in their life where they have accomplished a great deal. And they have reached a point where they have the assets that they're going to have for their life. have their savings, they've accumulated this over a long period of time of their work and their savings. And what we find is that one of the reasons they're vulnerable is that they have assets. In some of the talks that I've given, I've made a comparison back to the old bank robber of the 1930s, Willie Sutton. And Willie Sutton robbed banks and got caught. And one time a young cub reporter asked him, Willie, why do you keep robbing banks? And his answer was, that's where the money is. And to a certain extent, this is one of the reasons that we find seniors are targeted. We can be appalled, we can be outraged, but we shouldn't be surprised. We really shouldn't be surprised. Seniors have almost got a target on their back in that they have assets. They have an income for the most part. Even those with low income, it's steady income from pensions or from Social Security. And so they are vulnerable to fraudsters who want to dishonestly take some of that. Secondly, there's the rules of banking and the rules of finance change all the time. They change regularly. And just about the time that people feel they've got all the answers to the questions that they've worked all their life, they end up changing the rules. Or they change the terms, or they change the way banking is done. So
wait a minute. Is that kind of like they're now doing those chip cards where you...
Chip cards.
Yeah, that kind of changes?
Your smartphone at Starbucks. I mean, I've watched seniors that, and I'm one as well, but I've watched them. How is it someone comes in with a phone and gets a cup of coffee?
And you can pay with a phone.
Exactly, and there's no money exchange. I've just got over how to figure out how to use credit cards. So the uncertainty of how to use these new terms and these new products can lead to confusion. And where there's confusion, there's opportunity to take advantage of somebody. Also, many seniors have gotten to the point where they don't want to be a burden to anybody, and they're concerned about that. They worry that if they turn to their children or they turn to others, that this is the beginning of being seen to be incompetent. And they're very concerned about that. They're very guarded about that. They've always looked out for other people. They've accomplished what they have in their life. And now, all of a sudden, they don't want to be seen to be back into a dependent situation. And many financial exploiters will take advantage of that. They'll use that trust. The other thing is that seniors don't move around a lot for the most part. And so we know where they are, they know can get it. One of the comments I make to a lot of my audiences is, don't become a sitting duck. Don't just sit there and wait. Get involved with the community, stay involved with others, stay up on what's going on in the world, and be skeptical. Be skeptical of these offers that come in through the door to you. One of the reasons that this is so important is that financial exploitation of seniors can be devastating. The same fraud that's perpetuated on someone who's in their late 20s or 30s has a dramatically different impact to someone's in their 70s or 80s. They don't have the time to recover from that. And so we're very concerned that we avoid financial exploitation of seniors. So one of the things that we did under this grant was we developed a booklet. I think I can put it here.
Yes, here we go. There we go.
All righty. It's called Protecting Seniors from Financial Exploitation, and it's available on our website. So that if someone wants to get this, and we'll put this up again.
At the end.
At the end, all right, fine, yes.
No, there it is,
Okay,
there it
we'll
is.
leave it here, but we'll put it up at the end. Is they can reach us and download it.
Write this down.
So it'd be www.jmls.edu
Sorry.
slash clinics
It focuses. There you go. /clinics.
slash fair housing slash resources.php. And if you just go onto the website to JMLS.edu, there's a button for clinics, there's a button for fair housing, there's a button for resources, so you can reach it that way. It should be available within the next couple of weeks, but it will be, it's very comprehensive, and I think will be a good asset for people to use.
Well, Dennis, maybe you can tell us, what are some of the warning signs of elder financial abuse? What kind of signs should we be on the lookout for?
There's several. And I'm going to give you a kind of a litany of these, and if folks have experienced this, just because one of these may be present doesn't mean that you have financial abuse, obviously. But if you put several of these together and they start to form a pattern, now you need to maybe be a little more suspicious. And one of the things that we watch for is that a senior can't spend money the way they want to. They have money, they want to spend it some way, but somehow someone is keeping them from doing that, or they just don't seem to be happy with spending their money. They're not paying their bills on time. Even though someone knows they have the assets to do that, the bills aren't getting paid. They end up being forced to give away or sell property, sign over power of attorneys, change titles on property to somebody else at a time when it's unusual. Why would somebody do this? If someone is offered care in exchange for property or access to bank accounts, that's a red sign, a red warning flag. It should be done for money. It should be done on a contract, or it should be done for love even, but it shouldn't be done in exchange for property or access to bank accounts. If an account shows that something is physically impossible, for instance, we have a bedridden senior and someone's looking over their accounts for their benefit, and they notice that there's a number of ATM withdrawals.
Or a trip to Vegas, I'm
Or a
assuming.
trip to Vegas. They couldn't have done this. They haven't had an opportunity to do that. If their financial situation suddenly changes, if belongings are missing, if a will is suddenly changed, if seniors begin to make financial decisions that don't seem to be capable of comprehending why they did it. They say, oh yes, I just got this different type of mortgage for my house, but I don't know anything about it. Well, that's somebody talked you into doing that. If seniors start to become isolated from their friends or family, particularly if a caregiver is the responsible for that. If they're afraid to speak in front of somebody. In other words, if there's somebody present and when that person is present, they're afraid to get into any kind of a conversation about their finances. If they've purchased something that they're probably not going to be able to use, like a lifetime membership to an aerobic type of a gym that's not actually suitable for their age. If there's evidence that you might be seeing some potentially forged signatures on checks or the financial document, particularly if the senior doesn't remember signing them or doesn't know what they were for. Another one is if you start seeing in an apartment or someone's home that there's a piling up of sweepstake mailings, magazine subscriptions, and different types of, quote, free gifts.
And what about charities?
And charities. We're going to talk about charities. Charity
sorry.
fraud is a big one. Or other charities that they may be on a sucker list of some kind.
Wait, let me stop you there, Dennis, for a station ID.
Sure.
You're watching Green Slate I Incorporated, and we're live on CAN TV Channel 21 and cantv.org/hotline. And today's discussion is proactive planning to look out for financial warning signs for senior abuse. And I've got Dennis Smith with me tonight, and this is a live interactive program, and feel free to call in at the number on the bottom of your screen with any questions, comments, or concerns relating to financial exploitation of seniors. Back to you, Dennis.
Okay. One of the questions that oftentimes is asked in this situation is how do fraudsters find seniors in the first place?
To target them.
To target them. How do they know that they're there? And believe it or not, one of the most common methods of doing this is that fraudsters can purchase information from companies that routinely sell marketing data, such as names, addresses, and phone numbers, as part of their business. Now, a legitimate company would use this data to market and sell their products. A fraudster would use it to cheat people, but it's publicly available. There's a lot of information out there on all of us. Other information, consumers of all ages routinely give out a great deal of information about themselves when they fill out any kind of surveys or apply for giveaways or sweepstakes. If someone's asking only for a little bit of information about you in order to give you an opportunity to win a prize or something, you've just given away free information. So we do it ourselves. Also, and this is one that is particularly bad, fraudsters will sell or trade their own lists of victims to other fraudsters.
Wow.
Knowing that, well, try a different one on them. I'll trade you my list for your list, and you try your scam, and I'll try mine.
So the same people can be repeatedly
Oh,
victimized?
very much so.
Oh, that's
Very
terrible.
much so. It's awful. It's terrible. Now, scammers will validate a working telephone number, and this happens at my house nightly, by simply using a computer program that robocalls a whole list of numbers, telephone numbers. And if a live person answers the phone and says hello, then that is marked that, yes, this is the live number.
Oh.
If nobody answers it, Well, maybe that's not a good number, so they scratch it off and don't use it. Then that number can be sold to somebody else or given to somebody else or used and said, well, this is a good number. Somebody is there. So you know that that's probably happened if you do answer the phone and there's nobody on the other end. So your best defense, quite frankly, is your caller ID. And if somebody calls, you don't recognize the number, just don't answer the phone. And if it's a legitimate caller and somebody needs to get in touch with you, they'll leave a voice message or they'll call back.
Or call back,
Or
right.
they'll call back. The robocaller probably won't until tomorrow night, about dinner time. But that's one of the ways that they do get in touch with people.
Well, Dennis, maybe you can tell us, how can consumers protect themselves from these money scams?
All right. One of the things that people can do is that they can, particularly seniors, can take some general precautions. And one of them is just to be aware that you are targeted as a senior for fraud. If you've reached a certain age, if you're in a retirement age, once you've hit 70, I noticed that when I did, it was a matter of, it seemed like the effort was ratcheted up.
Wait a minute, you don't look like you're over 70, Dennis.
Well, I am.
I'm going to need some ID on that one.
All right, well, that's true. But anyway, you're going to target on your back. It's going to happen. And as annoying as that is, it's a fact of life. And so be aware of it and be aware of the fact that you are at risk at all times. So that's just one. You don't have to like it, but it's a fact of life. As I said before, don't isolate yourself, stay involved, and tell solicitors of all kinds. This is very simple. Just make a simple statement. I do not buy or give money to anybody who calls or visits me unannounced. Period. If you have something that you think is of interest to me, or if you have something that you think that would be a worthwhile charity for me to contribute to, mail it to me. Send it to me in the mail. Or I'm going to simply send my check to the headquarters of the organization itself. I'm not going to go through a fundraiser. So don't bother calling me. I'm not going to give you any money. I'm not going to buy anything if you call me unannounced. Even if you don't really, at least tell people that. Mm-hmm. The other one is get a shredder. Simple as that. Get a shredder. And anything that has your name, your address, your credit card numbers on it, statements, or anything else, shred them. And you can do that when you get the mail, because a lot of the mail comes in with your name and address on it and other information on. Shred it. And it's,
I'm going to add something here, and my aunt is ruthless about this. Sometimes she gets catalogs in the mail from places where she's purchased products before. I don't want to name any names. But a lot of times her name and address and maybe her account number for the company is listed on the back for mailing purposes. Right. But then in the middle of the catalog, sometimes there is an order form with her pre-printed information on there. So I hate to say it, you either have to shred the entire catalog, which some shredders may or may not take, or make sure you take that pre-printed order form out of the middle of the catalog. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. That's exactly right. It's a perfect point, is that you need to do that and just get that information out and shred it. It helps. You never know who's going to go through the trash. One that I give the information out, but as a consumer myself, I don't find this to be particularly effective, is sign up for the do not call list. I just don't know how well they work. They don't seem to turn off the phone calls to me. But yeah, I'm on all of them.
They're supposed to.
They're supposed to, exactly.
Feel free to call the do not call list.
Yes, do it. It might work for you. It hasn't proven very effective for me. Definitely use direct deposit. You might want to learn to use the computer online checking capabilities that the banks have. They're very convenient, they're very safe, and if they're used correctly, they can prevent you from having a lot of stuff in the physical mail. The other point is this: do not ever give out your credit card numbers, any banking information, the tracking number on your checking account, the account number, your social security number, medical information, or any other person over the phone, unless you initiated the call, you know who you're talking to, and that they're doing it for your benefit. In other words, if you've called your doctor's office and they need a little bit of information clearly, you know who that is and you give it to them. Someone calls you, however, never do it unless, again, you know exactly who they are. And again, just have a good, healthy skepticism. Now, there are some other signs that something is in fact a financial scam or a fraud. And we're going to talk a few minutes just about a couple of the most common ones. One of the worst, and it happens under a whole variety of variants. There's a lot of varieties of this. And that's a phone call that comes in to validate your personal information. So someone can call and they could call and say, we're from Medicare, we're from the government, we're from the IRS. I heard recently it could be even one of the utility companies could call. And they would say, we're just trying to verify this information and make sure that all of your accounts are correct. And so they will give you, so would you tell us then the numbers? Or they'll give you the series of numbers that are in the right sequence. And you say, no, that's not my right account number. My right account number is this. Well, you've just given it to them.
So they will give you a bogus account number, and then when you correct them, then they have your real account number.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is this you? No.
Don't correct bogus numbers.
Correct. And don't relent to pressure somebody to say, well, we've got a great deal, but it's a limited time offer. This offer can only be done in the next 20 minutes, so you must make a decision on it. Click. Hang it up. Any telephone or email solicitation you get that insists on secrecy. You don't want to do that. And your best defense on almost all of these telephone scams is simply hang up. I know we have a little time. We want to talk a little bit about
Yes, I want to know some of the common
most common
frauds
ones.
and scams
All right.
that people should be on guard for, the current scams out there.
Right, and particularly now as we're approaching tax season. One of the most scurrilous ones and one of the easiest to protect yourself against is the IRS imposter fraud.
How does that work, Dennis?
This works this way. Get a telephone call and it shows up on your caller ID, IRS. They've actually figured out a way to do that.
No kidding.
This is scary.
Shows IRS
Yes,
on the caller
it
ID?
does. This
Oh,
can
wow.
terrify people. And
Yes.
they get on, and these folks are good actors, and they will tell them, I am from the IRS, I'm a special agent, you owe money, you have a tax delinquency, and unless we take care of this right now, immediately, a whole bunch of terrible things are going to happen. And this can be extremely unsettling to people. And so the fact that it shakes people up is normal. You shouldn't it shouldn't make anybody ashamed of that. That's a very scary thing to have happen to you. However, I give you this, it is 100% fraud. The IRS always initiates an action with a taxpayer, a dialogue with them, whether it's they have to have some inquiry, so take some action. That initiation will be taken in writing by the U.S. mail. So your best defense on the IRS imposter, hang up. Now, spring break just occurred. This is a very old scam. It's been as old as telephones, and it still works. The grandparent scam.
Oh.
Get a telephone call from somebody who claims to be one of your grandchildren. Doesn't give a name or may give a name, but it's always kind of a crinkly call. But I'm down in Warris. I'm in jail, Grandma, and I need help. You got to send money. Well, Grandma sometimes will go, maybe they're on spring break. I don't know. What do you need? Well, you got to wire me some money. Go down to Western Union, wire them the money, or send it to them on a prepaid debit card, and money's gone.
Wow.
And yes, it works. So the best defense, get the callback number, call the parents, validate this with somebody in the family.
And most of these grandchildren probably have cell phones.
Sure, exactly. And you don't know whether they're calling from their own cell phone. Call them back or call back that same number.
Once again, if it's a strange number, be on the lookout.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it could be they're saying it's a strange number because I am, okay.
We're going to have to wrap things up, but before we go, I want to make sure that all the seniors out there know where they can get this booklet. And here, let me show the booklet again. Oh, and let's hope I can zoom in a little bit, maybe. That'll do it. No. Let's try this one. Whoa, that did not work.
www.jmls.edu is sufficient.
Move this over.
Yeah, that is sufficient. It will get you
Write
to...
this down. Write this down.
Because that will get you to our website. There's a button for clinics. There's a button for fair housing. Then there's a button for resources. And then you'll get, and they bring up all of our booklets. In fact, all the publications at the law school that we have are available on the website.
And thank you for watching and participating in today's show. And I'm Jan Kowalski with Green Slate I. And my guest tonight has been Dennis Smith. Thank you, Dennis, for joining
You're quite welcome,
us.
and good evening. It was my pleasure.
And tonight, my technisian and producer has been Ziff Sistrunk. Thank you, Ziff, and have a good night.